Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Insight series with me, Chris Forden, for the Light Review. In this series, we talk to some of the best designers in the country to see what their take is on a variety of subjects. Joining me on this podcast, recorded earlier this week, is Ruth Kelly Waskett, Senior Associate at Hoare Lea, and with some real gems for anyone looking at hotel lighting, which, as we all know, are as numerous as they are varied. So sit back, have a cup of tea, and enjoy the ride. When looking at lighting for hotels, for those designers just starting out, or even those looking for a different approach, what would be your guiding principles?
So I think with hotels, we actually found that we rely a lot on our experience. So this is a tricky one because I think if you're starting out, you're going to need to rely on the experience of others. So I guess my advice would be to visit some hotels, understand what has already been done by others, and if possible, talk to the people behind it, whether they're in your team or elsewhere, and find out how they achieved, the atmosphere and the different solutions. And I think because with hotels, what we've found is that it's really about the experience much more than the numbers. So it's not a case of read this standard and then off you go. It definitely isn't. It's much more immersive. It's about feelings. It's not about illuminance levels at all, which is kind of scary, but also really liberating for a designer.
I like that word, liberating, especially today. I think that when you look at hotels, you're right, there's not a one size fits all, is there? So I guess you've got elements of everything in there, haven't you? Where people eat, where people lounge, where people corridors and things like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
I was going to ask, and I did look online to see if there are any guides that you can refer to, because I don't think the SLL has any guides per se, but it does have various elements within the booklet that suggest hotels you should light in a certain levels for lobby areas and such like. But it's the nuts and bolts, really, isn't it? Not the look and feel, I suppose, so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the handbook can be helpful. The SLL handbook can be really helpful here to give an idea of the kind of illuminance levels that you need for different functions, different tasks. But that's really, it sort of feels to me in the hierarchy when you're looking at a hotel and leisure project, that's quite low down the hierarchy. I think as long as it's not so dark that it's dangerous, that people are tripping over themselves or not able to fulfill the task that they want, the overriding driver is the atmosphere. So that's why, going back to what I said at the beginning, that is why we rely so much on our judgment and our experience, rather than looking at things and measuring things and saying, yep, tick, that achieves that looks level. So it's much more about where the light's coming from. In a lot of cases, we're trying to almost exclude the external world and create an immersive thing that's very inward looking. That can be quite difficult with daylight, because what we found is that if there is daylight in certain areas, we actually need to ramp the artificial lighting up to balance it, because we don't want the space to feel. Often daylight is heavily filtered, so by the time it gets into deeper areas, it's very minimal. So it's about trying to balance it for daytime, and then at nighttime bringing everything down. And I guess the key is flexibility, because it's all about knowing that you can dim things up if you need to, but also knowing that you can bring them down. And obviously in different, being able to layer everything and control things in terms of groupings is really, really important.
Yeah, it is really important, but also I like the fact that afterwards you can tweak things, because let's face it, sight is always so different, isn't it, to reality?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you, there's a big push, isn't there, for sustainability issues. Is it hard to find a balance between creating that wow factor and creating a design that is green?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that came to my mind when I was thinking about this sector, before our meeting today. And the thing that struck me was a lot of the fittings that we specify, a lot of the products that we specify in the hotel sector are not the most efficient. And so, for example, some of them, take a downlight, for example, a recessed downlight, it's designed to be sort of not noticeable when it's off, or even when it's on for that matter. So it's what you might call, say, a dark light approach, where the internal reflectors are very dark finish or black finish. So it means that it's inherently inefficient, in terms of how much light is coming out of that thing. It's not being bounced around very efficiently or at all. And then you've got other decorative pendants that put up huge barriers, lots and lots of layers for the light to get through. So there's a real conflict there. However, I think what we're finding is that there are products that are more efficient and still hit the right note when it comes to the aesthetics. It's just that you've got to pay more in a lot of cases. So we need to convince clients to take that step to really, if they really want this building to be sustainable, and we definitely do, then we have to convince them to go the extra mile. And another thing that struck me was that I think there's evidence that people are voting with their feet more and more. So people's choices are being driven more by sustainability. So as consumers, people will possibly choose to stay in a particular hotel or another based on the sustainability credentials of that hotel. For example, there's, I think, a hotel in Ireland that I understand to be the first passive house hotel. And I'm really interested in that because, I'd love to go and stay there. And I know that I'm not the only one who will go there specifically because of that, not just because it's a beautiful place to stay, but because of those credentials.
That's good to hear. I like the fact you see people actually caring, because sometimes I do get a bit, I think in the lighting industry, we are generally quite positive. I mean, it's a bad stereotype, but I think we're the type of people who like to see the betterment in society and such like. I'm just thinking of other people, maybe from other arenas, aren't maybe so, they're just interested in something that's a bit glam, but hopefully everyone will get their, I was going to say comeuppance, but that's not right. Everyone will get their chance to benefit society and the general economy and green economy, because that's the way it's all going anyway. So I'm sure we'll learn to embrace it eventually, I hope. What's your biggest bugbears when working on these projects, and what are the newest innovations you have seen that really impress you? And I'm really interested, what does the light designer bring to the party, especially when you're working alongside the interior designer's palette, which, sometimes they go for quite a dark looking film. I mean, you said about trying to design things so that they're basically ecologically sound, but that's counterintuitive, isn't it? You can't have a dark interior. I mean, it'll be white, and that would be pretty bland and boring, wouldn't it? Let's face it, if everything was white.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a huge trend for dark interiors, and that's been going on for a few years. And it really feeds into this aesthetic that I've mentioned, where I guess I would call it the enveloping space. So it's like entering a dark kind of cozy environment where everything is inward looking and you want to feel cocooned. And so there are a lot of schemes that have quite a dark interior. Nomad Hotel, which was recently finished, that's got some amazing frescoes inside in some of the spaces. And it's generally quite dark, it's generally quite a dark environment. And so I don't want to say that's a bugbear, because I know you're right. From the point of view of lighting efficiency, having dark surfaces is not good news. But I also would like to see it as an opportunity, because with hotels, the freedom goes both ways. So we can actually get away with quite low illuminance levels. So from the point of view of energy consumption, we can use light sparingly. So in those dark spaces, we can be quite careful about only applying light in certain places. to really enhance that kind of immersive experience. And you know, in doing so, we can get away with, you know, using quite low amounts of energy. For example, at Nomad, and I know this is the case at other hotels, the lighting at night is dimmed to as low as it can go before it starts to flicker. So, you know, that's how they want it. That's the scene setting that we arrived at. So, you know, I feel like actually there's a good opportunity there. Where it gets more difficult is in other sectors. If you have that dark interior and it's applied to, say, a workplace, that's a nightmare, because you actually need to achieve higher levels, but you've still got this dark interior. Whereas in hotels, you can say, well, you've got maybe a dark interior, but you've got low illuminance levels, so they kind of go hand in hand. So you're not fighting, you know, with each other.
And innovations, I mean, there must be a whole lot. I mean, LED has been around for a long time now, but everyone seems to be. I quite liked. This isn't a plug. I quite liked the carpets, the Quadrat carpets with LEDs in and things. I don't know if you've seen those. They're ace.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to look that one up. But I think in terms of innovations, one of the things that occurred to me was, and from discussions with my team as well, is that hotels were one of the last sectors to hang on by the skin of their teeth to tungsten. So, you know, they were the last to give in and kind of move to LED, and that's because of the quality of light that you could get from incandescent that at the time you couldn't get from LED. And it's only, I think, even though LED's been around for a long time now, it's only relatively recently that we are confident to specify LED and know that we can get the quality that we want, you know, in terms of color and spectrum. So, you know, color rendering. So, you know, it's not a great answer to your question, because it's not but you know, it feels like we finally arrived at the point where we can specify LED with confidence in those kinds of applications. And then I guess the other side of it is controls, where we've there's still a lot of traditional controls companies that supply hotels, but they have kind of moved into the 21st century in terms of the interface. So it's now fairly standard for us to be able to have an iPad for, you know, for scene setting and for adjusting things. And that's just brilliant. It's such a simple thing, but it's really smoothed out the whole process of fine tuning things. And it means that when we walk away, the hotel operators can change things without having to, you know, book an appointment with someone. So it's really, really good.
I think you might have nailed the last question, which is what do lighting designers bring to the party? And that would be it, wouldn't it? It's that professionalism, and it's the ability to see the project through to the end. Because it's those little intricacies, and they're the things that really make a project, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really answer that question, actually. You asked about when we work with interior designers, what are we bringing? So it is the detail, because I think lots of interior designers think they can do lighting, and they have some great, you know, insights there. But where it can fall down, if it falls down at the last hurdle, because maybe an alternative product is substituted because, you know, something doesn't fit or whatever it is, that can just let the whole thing down. And that's where that is what we bring to the table, because we see it through to the last detail. So it's, you know, you would not want to have this wonderful interior and then to be able to see individual LED chips in a bit of tape. You know, it just undermines the whole thing. So yes, it's that kind of attention to detail, as well as the fact that obviously we're able to plug into suppliers in a way that maybe someone from an interiors background might not have the same strong links with the supplier side to understand what the latest product offerings are, because they're looking at things across lots of different materials and you know, different aspects. So I think that's really essential as well.
I think that's a great way to wrap up, Ruth. So thanks to you all for tuning in. Be sure to like and hit that subscribe button to keep up with the new content. We are, after all, here to serve you. So see you all soon. And thank you very much, Ruth, for today. It's been great to talk to you.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's been great. Thank you.
Ta-ra.